knows too much.
Long before the Woodstock Festival, the National Security State had already realized they had a problem, as they had no influencers in the teenage culture that emerged almost overnight in the wake of Bob Dylan and the Beatles. Dylan was way too smart to get sucked into their dialectical games, although he was targeted and hounded by many, including Weberman, who used the street performer Peel to spread the word that Dylan was an MK Ultra secretly controlled by the CIA. After analyzing his music, Weberman concluded that only he could interpret the secret messages Dylan was trying to get out. Weberman demanded Dylan's brain be returned to the people. He also launched the Paul is dead meme that spiraled into the supermarket tabloids. His crackpot reinterpretations of popular songs was rivaled only by Charlie Manson, who would explain why he was getting secret messages from the Beatles saying it was okay to wreak havoc and murder on straight people and pigs. Something had to be done with the emerging counterculture media, most of which was being run by teenagers, before these papers established a foothold. The American media had long ago been compromised after the J.P. Morgan firm funded a study on how much it would take to buy up enough newspapers to control of the national media. Turns out it wasn't all that expensive, so their fronts went around getting control of every major publication in secret, and the big ones had national security reporters working close with military intelligence on managing the national mindset. British intelligence was also on board, which is why I find it suspicious a British journalist arrived in 1955 to start the underground media, first at The Voice and then the more radical East Village Other, which was designed to appeal to the new politically aware teen culture minted by Dylan that had picked up guitars and marijuana cigarettes. Two of the exploiters that arrived on the scene were a couple of con men named Tom Foreman and Bert Cohn, who were running a company called Concert Hall in Pennsylvania. They contacted the underground papers and offered to sell ads and wound up being promoters for the Woodstock Festival. When Farsad visited their offices on his first trip to New York, he couldn't help but notice Cohn drove a Lotus Elan while Foreman motored about in a Vincent Black Lightning. The recently created Rolling Stone magazine was bombarding the major labels, advising them to stop all ads in the underground press because the founders were anti-capitalistic. Working for Concert Hall was a secretary named Cindy Orenstein, who had been a Goldwater Republican and whose mother penned pro-war editorials in Time, Newsweek, and the New York Times. Being published in Time was sort of a giveaway, as it was created by Yale Skull and Bones. Tom's girlfriend had just left him over support for Sinclair because Sinclair was advocating armed resistance. Ornstein was one of the few women who could stand toe-to-toe with Farsad, and they quickly became a team. She would put up the stash of money to create High Times, perhaps donated by her mother, who suspected Farsad was in fact a government agent.
He was this eminent grief from the lunch bucket of America, I mean the armpit of America, somewhere way out there in among the mesas and the tumbleweeds and cactus. Here came this guy out of a Sergio Leone spaghetti western with a slouch hat and handlebar mustache, being very grim and very intimidating and absolutely brilliant.